The fourth victim's name was wrong. That was the moment I realized something was deeply off. I was staring at a scanned police report dated 10 years earlier, and the name typed at the top didn't match the burial record I had just pulled from the county database. Same age, same address, same cause of death, different name. And that's when I noticed the date, exactly 10 years apart. I didn't start out trying to uncover a pattern. I wasn't chasing a conspiracy or a legend. I was just doing what I usually do late at night, reading old crime reports, following dead ends, letting my mind wander. The town was called Harrow's Point. Population just under 11,000. Midwestern, quiet. The kind of place with a single main street and a diner that still closes at 8 p.m. The case that pulled me in was from 2014. A man found dead in his home. No forced entry, no sign of struggle. Cause of death listed as undetermined cardiac event following acute psychological stress, which is a strange way to phrase a heart attack. The responding officer noted that the victim had been seated at his kitchen table, hands folded, eyes open, a cup of coffee still warm. The report said the coffee pot was on, the cup was half full, and the television was playing the local news. Nothing about it screamed homicide, but there was a handwritten note in the margin of the report. One line: matches prior incident. No explanation, no reference number, just that. I searched for the prior incident. That's when I found the 2004 case. Different victim, different name, same address, same position at the kitchen table, same coffee, same TV channel. Even the weather listed in the report was similar: overcast, light rain. The cause of death was worded almost exactly the same. And again, in the margin, the same handwritten note: matches prior incident. This time, there was a reference number. It led me to 1994. That victim had a different name, but everything else lined up. Same house, same time of day, same responding officer, actually. Which shouldn't have been possible. The officer's badge number was identical across all three reports. In 1994, he would have been at least 60. In 2014, he would have been pushing 80. Yet the handwriting was the same. The signature was steady. No indication of retirement or reassignment. I told myself it was probably a clerical error. Small-town departments reuse forms, they copy templates, they make mistakes. So I pulled the local newspaper archives. That's when it got harder to explain away. The headlines were nearly identical. Different years, different names, same phrasing. Local resident found dead at home, community response. The articles followed the same structure. First paragraph described the discovery. Second paragraph reassured readers there was no danger. Third paragraph quoted the mayor. Same quote, word for word. The town mourns, but we remain strong. The photo placements were the same too. Victim portrait on the left, house exterior on the right. Even the shadows fell the same way. I started laying them side by side on my screen, scrolling back and forth, comparing commas. They weren't just duplicates. They were duplicates, with names swapped out, dates changed. And one more thing. Each article mentioned a town council vote that happened shortly after the death. In 1994, it was approval for a new industrial park. In 2004, it was zoning change that allowed a logistics warehouse. In 2014, it was funding for a regional hospital expansion. Each project brought money, jobs, growth. Harrow's Point prospered after every incident. That could be coincidence. Towns grow, economies change. But the timing bothered me. Always within 3 weeks of the death, always framed as moving forward. I dug deeper into property records. The house where all 3 victims died wasn't sold between incidents. It was owned by the town, listed under a municipal holding trust. The victims were renters, short-term. Each had moved in less than 6 months before their deaths. Each had no immediate family in town. Each had lived alone. And each had worked remotely. That last part stuck with me. I pulled obituaries. The families where they existed all lived out of state. The deaths were ruled natural. No autopsies beyond basic examinations, no toxicology reports, no follow-ups. Closed cases. I decided to call Harrow's Point. I didn't identify myself as anything official, just a researcher. I asked the clerk about the address. She paused, then told me the house was demolished in 2016, said it was structurally unsound. When I asked what stood there now, she said a memorial park, small, unmarked, maintained by the town. I asked if there were records from before 1994. She said there was a fire in the records room in the early 80s, lost a lot of documents. Then she added something that didn't seem rehearsed. People don't like talking about that house. I asked why. She said bad things happen there every so often. I didn't tell her I already knew. I asked if there had been another case before 1994. She said she wasn't sure, but she remembered her father talking about something in the 80s. I pulled microfilm from a regional archive. 1984. Same headline, same layout, different name, same address. That made four. 4 incidents, each 10 years apart, same details, same outcome. The 1984 victim's death certificate listed the cause as cardiac arrest. No mention of stress, no elaboration. But the police report, what little I could see, had the same margin note, matches prior incident. No reference number this time, just a blank space. I noticed something else. In every case, the victim had made a call the night before, not to emergency services, to the town's administrative office. The calls were logged, short, under 2 minutes. No recordings were kept, just timestamps, always between 11:40 p.m. and midnight. I asked myself what would make someone call town hall that late? Noise complaint? Utility issue? Or something else? What would you think if this happened to you? If you moved to a quiet town, settled into a rented house, and slowly realized the place felt prepared, not lived in. The furniture always the same, the coffee maker already there, the TV mounted and tuned, as if someone expected you. I requested voter records. All 4 victims were registered voters, but none of them had voted in local elections, despite being eligible, despite receiving ballots. It was noted. Each had declined participation, marked as inactive but registered. The same phrase, over and over. I don't know why that mattered to me, but it did. I started looking at town council minutes. Every 10 years, the same council members were present, or at least the same last names. Fathers replaced by sons, mothers by daughters. Continuity. The mayor's name changed, but the quote stayed the same. I tried to track down the responding officer, the badge number. It didn't exist in state databases, never had. The name attached to it never was listed as sworn law enforcement anywhere, yet his signature appeared on decades of reports, always neat, always confident. I reached out to a retired journalist who covered Harrow's Point in the 90s. He remembered the case, said it felt managed. That was his word, managed. He said there were no questions allowed at the press conference, said the story was written before anyone asked for details. When I asked him if he thought it was murder, he paused, then said no. He thought it was worse. He thought it was intentional, but not violent. He thought the town chose someone. I asked him what he meant. He said the town needed something every 10 years, momentum, approval, a moment of unity, something tragic enough to loosen resistance, a death no one could argue with, no suspect, no blame, just sadness, and then progress. I couldn't stop thinking about that word, chose. I went back to the victims. All 4 had one thing in common beyond the house. They had filed complaints, small ones, about zoning, about noise, about environmental impact. Each had submitted formal objections to upcoming town projects, not lawsuits, just paperwork, but enough to slow things down, enough to require hearings, enough to be inconvenient. After their deaths, the objections were withdrawn, automatically, because there was no one to pursue them. The next incident would have been 2024, last year. I checked. There was a report. Different address this time, because the house was gone. But the details were the same. Victim seated, coffee warm, TV on, local news. Cause of death, undetermined cardiac event following acute psychological stress. The margin note was there, still handwritten, matches prior incident. The town approved a new data center 2 weeks later, largest project in its history. Brought in millions. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if it's something in the house or something in the water, or something said during those late-night calls. I don't know if the victims understand what's happening, or if they're convinced it's their idea.
All I know is that the town benefits every time, and the paperwork always lines up. No suspects, no crimes, just patterns. I still think about the names, how they're the only thing that changes. If you live in Harrow's Point and you rent from the town, and you start asking questions, you might already be part of the schedule. I can't prove it's a ritual, but I can't explain it any other way. And once you see it, once you notice the repetition, you can't unsee it. I've stopped digging, not because I'm satisfied, but because I'm not sure what happens when the pattern is interrupted. If this story unsettled you, if it made you pause, I want to know what you think is really happening in Harrow's Point. Share your theory in the comments. And if this story stayed with you longer than you expected, go ahead and like the video.